Meanwhile, the Netherlands continues to fight on. Den Haag still hasn't fallen. We've got Dutch troops marching in again. They're definitely putting up one hell of a fight here, but they're just overwhelmed. There's too many of them. 20,000 against soon-to-be 80,000. Using huge amounts of numbers now, even though the majority of these troops, I think, are mercenaries. The Dutch do still have the cash, and they are still making money, technically. Yes, we have a Muscovy. When did the Ottomans get involved? It's a condottieri. I'm surprised they've done this. I'm very surprised that they did this. I guess Helson was feeling bored. So I think we're about to see even more of the infantry being cancelled out for mercenaries. The Dutch are taking loans. Many, many loans. Well, actually, it's not that many. It's the Dutch. They can recoup that pretty quickly. Not sure I'd like Denmark moving in if I was France. I mean, other nations have got to be taking note. These two, I think it was a mistake for Cologne to cancel the condottieri. I think the Dutch and Cologne could have done enough to thwart these guys' attempts. Unfortunately, they've just lost Den Haag, so it's only Overstricht and rebels, which Prussia is demolishing. Yeah, this is not looking too hot for the Dutch. And this was all for Ostfriesland. Ottomans again fighting the rebels. The Ottomans are doing a surprising amount of work here. They're down to 6,000 men. How's the Ottoman manpower? Yeah, okay, it's not struggling. That's probably why the Ottomans are quite happy to do work. Indian tech group is also a major upgrade over the old one as well. Karakanuli needs to look out. Oh, I didn't realise it changed the tech group too. Interesting. I think the Ottomans, the now turned Mughals, will keep QQ as a buffer state. I suspect so. Both of them seem to have good relations with QQ. And QQ seems pretty good at diplomacy. Hilariously, the Commonwealth is refusing to hand over control of Den Haag. It might just be because they're not really trying to do peace deals yet. I mean, I do like the fact that the Netherlands is fighting on. In too many wars, we would have just seen them go, fine, unconditional, straight away. At least they're trying, and I respect that. This Dutch goalie is legit. Oh, of course, the Netherlands is playing against America at the moment, aren't they? I would say no spoilers, but I'm pretty sure that I'll get spoiled anyway. Oh, completed the goal of owning Bermuda, Gibraltar, and Malta, so Britain's now on the scoreboard. Cool, cool, cool. Let me just double check that. Gibraltar, Malta, Bermuda. Yep, he has indeed. Do. Boop. So let's see who's on the scoreboard. Brandenburg has one because they dismantled the HRE. Denmark is because they got the centres of trade they require. England is because they have Malta, Gibraltar, and Bermuda. The Ottomans are on 2 because they have Cairo and Vienna. Karakanulu is 1 because they have the largest cavalry army in the world. Venice is 1 because they own Alexandria. And that's it at the moment. Although we are about to get a bunch more in 8 years. Danes are still offering peace. Amsterdam goes to the Commonwealth. Denmark will be given Overstricht, Groningen, Friesland, and Ostfriesland. Cuba will see Barbados to Denmark, so losing a lot less colonies this time. The peace deal has become more respectable. And I'd actually be kind of tempted to give the Commonwealth Amsterdam, because I can't see the Commonwealth agreeing to steer trade to Britain. I cannot see that happening. Which would then bring Britain in as a potential opponent to the Commonwealth. possibly breaking up the Commonwealth-Ottoman alliance. Because I don't know if the Ottomans would necessarily want to fight Britain because of all the British territories in the Mediterranean. Although they might want to fight Britain to get rid of those British territories in the Mediterranean. Britain, future Bank of Russia, possibly. If the three Germanic players had stayed together, they probably would have had a good fighting chance. Yeah, possibly. What religion is the Dutch? Reformed. So this isn't a religious war. They don't gain anything in terms of that. I'm a little bit surprised they went after the Dutch this time and not Bohemia, seeing as Bohemia is currently an unprotected AI. Although that may still happen. So QQ is up against the Mamelukes. This is the final fall of the Mamelukes, I think. So it's QQ and Oman. Oman's probably going to get these territories. QQ's going to get those. Don't know if the Ottomans have any interest in taking anything else from there. Ethiopia's doing what Ethiopia does. Mughals are currently fighting against Malwa and Bengal. Whoa, that's messy. Because Mughals are allied to Bahmanis, who went after Malwa. So this is a bit of a dismantling of the Indian hegemonies. Is that Silesia's colour or is that Ottoman? That's Silesia. The Ottomans are, however, in Austria. Can we see the religion map mode of Europe? Yes, you can. So the Commonwealth is reformed, so a bunch of Orthodox provinces are going to lose some power. Weirdly enough, the bit that usually goes heavily Protestant is Catholic, and everything which is usually Catholic has gone Protestant or Reformed. Reformed is surprisingly large. Poland's reformed, Britain's reformed, Florence is reformed, Venice is reformed, the Netherlands were reformed. Still are, this is just the occupations. Iberia is Catholic, Germany is Catholic, Balkans are still Orthodox, and then Scandinavia has gone Protestant. Oh, we got another fight. The Dutch have decided to go into Overstrict, so the Ottomans are currently on -1. 27,000 Dutch. They have rolled an excellent general, so they're definitely spending some military power trying to invest in better commanders. And they're doing the damage. I mean, they're losing 1,000 a tick at the moment, considering the size of the Dutch military in comparison. They're doing great damage. Like, the Dutch are putting up one mean fight here. They just don't have the numbers. Like, we need somebody else to jump in on this. Now, has Sweden pieced out? Nope, Sweden's still in. Denmark's actually down to low and taking war exhaustion. So this is where I take the Dutch Navy. Now that you're no longer at war with Britain, just start blockading Denmark and just cause them as many headaches as you possibly can from war exhaustion. Like, you have the Navy, you may as well use it. You have the naval superiority. They're not going to try and land troops for worry of the Dutch Navy. I'm still surprised that Britain went against the Dutch here. I'm still very, very surprised by that. So Oversticht has now fallen. We're at 87% war against them. Groningen is farmland. They would get benefits from fighting there. No, don't go across. That's going to be a crossing penalty. And it looks like the Ottomans are coming in for the kill. Yep. The Dutch putting in the fight, fighting against the Ottomans, and the Danes coming in. And the Dutch are now just losing loads and loads of troops. I think this is the end for the Dutch. And there it is, sack wipe. One ally would have been enough to balance this fight. Yeah, I would say that this is the fault of these two breaking their alliance with the Dutch, and I think that the next target is going to be these two, if I'm very honest. Like, the best chance that these three had of surviving was sticking together, and they didn't. Like, these are still... Oh. Commonwealth got it. No, Denmark got it. Okay. So the Dutch are still alive. They still have Antwerp. Let's remember what the other trade nodes are. Antwerp and Flanders. And I also somewhat doubt that the Dutch aren't going to be transferring trade to Britain anymore. I think Britain have proven themselves to be unreliable. Okay, here comes the transfer trade power demand. Will the British do it? Or will the Dutch do it? I don't think they will. Because why would they? They've lost the goodwill of the Dutch people. Lose the colonies? Nope, they kept the colonies. Denmark gained Barbados, which is not a centre of trade. So this is going to allow the Danes access to the Caribbean. So they at least have a naval base down here. From their northern hangouts, they have a holiday place. A holiday home. I mean, the Dutch could still take this back. It's Denmark that owns it, not the Commonwealth. Actually, yeah, the Commonwealth owning that would have been worse. And now... the Netherlands needs to find some new friends. Cologne and Truro have proven themselves to be unreliable. The Netherlands needs to get an alliance possibly with France, because I doubt that France is going to, like you were saying, was going to want Denmark to come in. Possibly someone like Florence is just not going to want these powers to get even stronger. Possibly Venice. Maybe Castile. Especially if the Dutch converted to Catholicism, then Castile will probably be like, yeah, we'll support you. Or maybe the Dutch could even become a Castellan vassal, which would definitely be in Castile's favour, because Castile would be halfway towards completing their goal of becoming the overlord of the Dutch territories, and the Dutch gain a protector. I don't usually say that players should become a vassal, but in this instance, it might actually be good. Or at least get a guarantee or something from Castile. Because as long as the Netherlands, Castile is in with a chance. If this gets absorbed by somebody else, then Castile's job's a lot harder. But yeah, Maurici's been playing an interesting game of keeping his head well below the parapet and just not making much noise, and has been trying to avoid attention. It's worked. Until now, where he was caught completely without allies. And kind of the same problem that Darkfighter had in Muscovy. So there's definitely a sniping of unaligned nations at the moment. Which is a bit unfortunate, because it does mean that we're going to get these behemoth alliances. France, Britain, Venice, Denmark. Castile, unfortunately, is one of the unaligned. Papal States, Castile, Portugal. Britain's allied to Sweden, Denmark, Cologne, France, Naples. Sorry, not Naples. Florence. Prussia, Commonwealth, Sweden, Denmark, Ottomans, Commonwealth, Karakanulu, Oman, Tunis. The Germans are just eating each other up and letting the Ottomans expand even further. Like, nobody's even tried to help Austria. Alright, so we've got the one war going on at the moment, which is against the Mamluks, and it is only Karakanulu now. So Oman has pieced out, said, we've done our bit. We've taken what we wanted, which was the bit of territory up to there. So QQ is going to take... oh, they cut QQ off. So QQ can only get this. They are still allied. Well, that's an interesting turn of events. We need rules against these mega alliances. Usually we have them. I was expecting the goals to be the rule against mega alliances, but it just hasn't had that impact. How's the Hudson looking? Swedish. That's how the Hudson's looking. Although I'm still a little surprised that Sweden's going up here and not for their goal, which was Delaware. Because Delaware is also pretty nice territory. Portugal's still going after Brazil, although they do now have colonies down in La Plata. So that's 2 of the 5 that Portugal needs to get. Britain's in the Cape. Has Britain made it over to anywhere further east yet? No. I'm guessing that's... oh no, that's actually a colony. Just checking that Britain hasn't somehow made it to Indonesia yet. Doesn't look like it. Aren't super alliances super common in EU4 multiplayer? Yes. So ordinarily the rule that we play is you must be rivaled with... I'm trying to remember what the rule is now. You have to have 2-player rivals. That's what it was. You have to have 2-player rivals. And that seemed to work pretty well. Because you can't be allied with a rival. Paradox had a rule against hug boxes like that, and you want Great Power Allied, I think. I mean, the problem is then you don't get official alliances, you get alliances in name. Or agreements not to attack each other. I mean, they're definitely less formal than actually being your colour, but you then just get your 2 rival, or your 2 alliances attacking the same player, rather than an alliance of all of the players. And in the future, I'm definitely playing with the rival rule again. It was an interesting experiment. Trying to use the goals to create different conflicting interests and goals, but it hasn't worked. I'll be the first to say that. Some of the goals have been interesting, like I think the religious ones probably will, and that's definitely going to shake things up. With the exception of Poland, and I kind of understand why Poland did it. They did get a Centre of Reformation spawning in their country, and that does make it more difficult to resist reforming. It's not impossible, like Florence has proven, but it does make it more difficult. I like the goals, but it's not mutually exclusive with the rival rule. Yeah, but rules like that, I mean, that's a pretty sweeping one. You'd have to introduce that from the start. It would be very unfair to do it now. Doesn't Poland have a tolerance of heretics? I think so. How's Mali looking? Mali is fine. I mean, they've lost their coastline, but that was pretty inevitable. Congo is looking actually even better. They've still got their coastline. In terms of finances and everything, Mali is making money. Good taxation, good gold income, good grief. Some inflation problems, but considering the amount of gold down here, I'm not that surprised. 2 gold mines. In fact, do they have 3? They have 3 gold mines. Some manpower issues. Decent-sized army. What about technology? Actually fairly up to date. For a Central African. They're only lacking colonialism. Did Denmark gain any goals from the Netherlands conquest, or was that just purely expansion? I think that was just purely expansion. Yep. Denmark's next goals are against France and against Britain. So it's actually not in Britain or France's interest to have the Danes getting this close. Although the territories they took does not give them any CBs against France, not yet. Does the Netherlands still have Flanders? They do. Yeah, the Netherlands is definitely not out, because they still have Flanders, they still have Antwerp, they're still making a decent amount of money. The question is, are you transferring trade? No. So, because the British backstabbed the Dutch there, the Dutch are now no longer transferring trade to Britain, meaning that the Dutch are now stealing 25% of the trade power in the English trade node. So this is a net loss. For a one-off payment of war reparations and like 600 ducats, not worth it. I think the British should have just not gotten involved and then continued saying, come on, pay up. Especially because now the British have a naval opponent. Someone who is going to have competent navies. And lots of them. More so if a very unlikely alliance between the Netherlands and Denmark now forms to go and take the East Coast provinces that Denmark needs from Britain. It's possible. It's not likely, but it's possible. Because then you've got the 50% force limits modifier from the Dutch, the 50% force limits modifier from the Danes, with like Swedish combat ability and Commonwealth combat ability. That could potentially be dangerous for Britain and France. But again, that would require the Dutch joining with the Danes, and considering the colour of Northern Netherlands at the moment, I don't really see that happening. Prussia's army is pretty small, but the country is also fairly small. I don't think they're that big in terms of development.